How about them tops, son?
All day. SEC boys. SEC. They supposed to be SEC. Crazy all day, baby.
You're listening to the Red Out Podcast.
Hello and welcome into another Red Out Podcast. Sorry guys, I was running upstairs and I'm old, fat, and out of shape, so give me a second. This is Devin. We should have Alex with us tonight. Jared's not able to join us. He had to work late. But this week we are going to talk about the debacle that is ESPN, or not ESPN, Western versus Liberty, which was on ESPNU. For those of you who were not lucky enough to be able to make the game. Oh my gosh. And I got Alex online. Let's see if I can get him on the air. All right, I'll just give Alex here just a second to get on. So winners and losers this week. I think I'll just echo again what we said last week. Winner, America for getting football back, kind of getting us all back into the spring of things. Letting us all get back on getting to watch football and kind of ease a little bit of that COVID craziness that we all got to experience. And then, let's see. I honestly don't have very many. Let me see if we can find a couple here. I guess loser Western, because that crazy catch that, oh my gosh, I can't even think of the kid's name off the top of my head, for Liberty made. That was ridiculous. I know I saw it at the time and I was like, oh my gosh. Like that definitely looked like a catch. I can't tell. Just sitting here watching the game, I was like, oh my gosh, he probably caught that. They're probably going to rule that a catch. I'm really hoping they don't, but we'll see. But, obviously it was ruled a catch. All right. Hey, Alex.
Yo.
Hey, there you go. I can hear you now.
You can hear me perfect?
Yes, I can hear you perfect, buddy.
Nice. Apparently, like Podbean, it's been a while since I've been on a podcast. It felt like ages. But apparently you had to have like a headphone to actually connect it in. So I had to get like a bummy one to put in the plug and then basically pull it out. And I was like, oh, I can hear something. Okay, cool. I'm just going to go that way.
Hey, I could see you were online. I was like, okay, something's going on. Hey, don't even feel bad about that, because I guess 2 weeks ago I got on Podbean and set up the show and everything, and I was like, oh my gosh, all this has changed. Before I could have 4 guests, that's it. Now I can have 8 guests.
Wow, we need a...
And I could play a little music in the background as we talk about stuff, but I get so distracted, I can't do that. But
hey,
so
he is a sin and it's crazy. I got you. I'm definitely fighting that same battle.
Yes. So I won't say I outed you last week. Are you feeling better? How are you doing?
Oh, you're good. You're good. To those that have been out of the course, yes, I've battled COVID-19. I feel really good. I'm in recovery and I've got cleared to work this week. So work has been going really good, starting a new job and everything. Thankfully, the work situation was grand. I wasn't the first person to start and then catch COVID. So they're like, okay, we'll just give you the days up to quarantine, of course. So, work is going really good.
That's good.
Very enjoyable. So I'm just trying to get back in the swing of things, post-COVID, quote unquote, try to adjust to the new normal, just keeping up with pro tops and just juggling, having a routine, juggling the routine. And it's good. It's enjoyable. I'm just glad to be on here with you tonight, Devin.
Well, I tell you what, I'm happy to hear your voice and get to talk to you again. So what symptoms did you have?
Mainly, it started off with a sore throat and then it just went downhill. It was a typical, wet cough issues, and then also just runny nose, I didn't have a fever, surprisingly, but I felt hot. And then it just felt like also like I really couldn't breathe. Like I was just losing like breath, felt weak. Like it got to the point to where like Saturday, like I was just in bed. Like I couldn't even move. And like the following Saturday, of course, was like I got tested like 3 days before I had to go to my work. It was to the point to where I lost like my sense of taste and smell. Like I was just about to go to the medical center. Like that's how bad it was. And then thankfully, like my work medical department has free COVID testing. So I went there, got tested, had a quarantine, then got the phone call from the health department saying, hey, you tested positive for COVID. Here's what you got to do. So, I mean, I was down for like almost 2 weeks. Like it was something I would not wish on anybody. Like I don't care what side of the coin, what side of your belief is, take it from me. This is real. Do what you got to do. Wear a mask. Don't wear a mask. I don't know. It's your own discretion, but we're not going to get into that because that'll just be a different conversation. But just protect yourselves. Like, that's all I got to say.
Just be smart. And I mean, even if you don't agree with the mask, I'm not being political or anything, but just respect people, respect their, social distance. If they're kind of looking at you funny because you're getting closer, maybe, turn around and go out down a different aisle, But speaking on the COVID side, I have found out working with someone who's a first responder that now if you are COVID positive, it goes into the 911 database. And so if, for instance, if you had to call 911, they would tell the first responders, this person tested positive for COVID. And I'm like, that's not a bad thing. Yeah, I thought that was awesome. I was like, hey, it's kind of nice knowing you're going into that situation, and on a personal note, my mother tested positive for COVID about a month ago.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I haven't been telling anybody. It's because honestly, it wasn't anything. I mean, COVID's serious. Don't get me wrong, but her symptoms, it wasn't anything serious. She had there was a friend that came over and visited, and they had a temperature of like 100, 100 degrees the next night, and they were like, "Uh-oh, we've got a bug. Something's going on." So went to the doctor. The doctor tested them, and they were like, "You've got COVID." And so she was like, "Oh my gosh, are you serious?" And they're like, "Yeah." So it has been, I think it's about a month and a half. And it was just crazy. So her and my father came up today and got to see the little one. She's, as far as I know, everything's going well with mom. So don't have to worry about grandma getting sick. Her only symptom. Okay, so my mom's a little hypochondriac, so I'm going to tell y'all this. So she, her symptom that she had, her fever broke after the first night. She said she felt hot all over, but she was cold. So it was kind of like the flu, you know what I'm saying? So it was flu-like, but that's the only thing, that was her only complaint. She's like, I feel hot, but I'm not hot. Like her body's hot, but she feels cold. I don't know how to explain that. It's coming from a hypochondriac. So, but she's doing better.
I had the exact opposite though. Like I just felt like cold constantly all over, and somehow, some way, I went into like shivering spasms. Like normally, if you shiver when you're cold, it's like maybe for like a few seconds. No, like it felt like I was almost having a seizure. Like that was the most freakiest thing ever. I mean, like it sounds like you got like the full strand, and I think she just got like a brush of it. You know what I'm saying? Like I honestly, I even question if she really had it, but she did what she was supposed to do. She quarantined, did all that. So I can't fault her there because, trying to do the responsible thing and keep other people from getting sick and keep my grandparents from getting sick, stuff like that. So winners and losers. Do you have any, Alex? I do. Winners, I guess, just sports in general. Like we're finally starting to get some sort of normalcy with sports. The NFL is back. College football is in full swing. We're still awaiting of how we're going to do the college basketball situation. I've read where there's supposed to be like bubble sites, and I saw like Lexington could be like a potential bubble site, or Johnson City, Tennessee. I think that's where East Tennessee State is.
Yes.
And just the NHL, like Stanley Cup's going strong. Baseball, the World Series is about to start in like another few weeks or so. They're just rounding out playoff positions. NBA, and then the losers will just have to be like, I mean, I would have to call every single person a loser that think that this was going to be a 2-week thing. Like, thought like this is going to be a 2-week thing. Okay, let's not do what everybody else is telling us to do. And this lasted like, I guess, 7 months.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that.
Yes. So it's like we're all suffering in some way. Like, it's just like I didn't even think like we would still be in quote unquote quarantine protocol going into October. So it's just like, I mean, I guess this is the new normal now. Like, we're just trying to get through it.
I actually had a conversation with Jake back in February or March, and I'm not afraid to admit this because I don't mind saying I'm wrong. I told him I would be surprised if the virus was still here on my birthday, which is May 28th. So I'm honestly, I'll take those lumps, because I kind of thought like everybody else, when summer and the warm weather got here, it would kind of be like the flu and it would die out. And obviously that did not happen whatsoever. So I'll eat my crow. I'm fine with that. But, I think a lot of it is kids going back to school. I don't want to be political like you're, but I think, the more kids that are around each other, it's just going to happen, I don't know how many. I saw this meme on Facebook, and I don't know if you saw it, Alex, but it was the meme that where how many kids are going to run around and lick their hands and be like, I've got COVID, and chase each other with it. I mean, right? That's what I was thinking. I was like, oh my gosh.
I feel like if this was like back in like the early 2000s, like when we were in elementary school of some sort, like I don't know what year you graduated high school exactly, Devin, but
06.
06, okay, so not too far behind. I graduated in 2010. But like back in the early 90s, like early 2000s, like everybody was like in middle school, elementary school, whatever. So it was like, if this was like back then, like that meme would have came to full fruition.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like definitely. But like, it's just weird. It really is.
Honestly, like I was talking to my parents today. We were watching. If you haven't already, I'll go ahead and give everybody kind of a secret. You can watch this season's games on YouTube right now, even if you don't have ESPNU or anything like that. Go to Hilltopper Haven on YouTube. This guy's got gobs and gobs of Hilltopper football, but he has the Western games this year. So like last Wednesday on my day off, I sat and watched the Louisville Western game because I didn't have the ACC network. So this week I sat down and watched basically the same half I watched of the Liberty and Western game because I just couldn't take it. You just watch it and you just get so frustrated. But my parents were like, "Are do you wish you could go back and play and work for the team again?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'd love to, just not right now." I could not imagine, what they have to go through on the medical staff side of things to do, and even to get ready for practice. I couldn't imagine.
And it just goes back to just like the interaction of it. Like I'm still having trouble, like in my mind, like believing, like, wow, this is like just watching the games from like TV, and NFL, of course, has been doing the same thing. Like there's a limited amount of fans in the stands, of course, and then pretty much like everyone on the sideline, coaching personnel has to have masks on. The funniest part about the whole social distancing thing is like all the football players are still huddled together. Like they're not 6 feet apart. They're on the same sideline. So it's like that sideline is not equipped enough for everybody to be 6 feet. Like if you were to have everybody do that, like the line would just go from like maybe from the berm, like the scoreboard at the top of the berm to like Tate Page Hall. Like that's how immense it would be. So it is like I'm just trying to figure out like how is it like possible, like still like they're doing a really good job. Don't get me wrong, like all across the board, they're doing a really good job with just like the testing, the protocols, like just making sure everything is up to date. Everybody is safe and healthy, of course, which is that's all we can ask for. And it's just crazy. It really is. Sorry.
I can't imagine a football team having to social distance, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, not like if somebody's had contact, obviously you'd have to, exclude those positions or those people that they came in contact with. But like, I mean, it's almost like a family or like a work setting. I just don't see how you could, how they can social distance. Does that make sense?
Yes. Like, this is not the case. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, I'm scared crapless about college basketball, like how that's going to go, just because, like, of course, like, if you would take notes from the NBA bubble compared to, like, 18 to 21-year-old young men, like, playing basketball, like, traveling and stuff, and then it's like, you really have to choose your pros and cons, but even with basketball, it's like they're all still in like a very close setting. Like obviously you have a gym, you have a court, it only goes one dimension, it goes like so far apart. So it's like you're gonna have to get creative, but it also can get annoying and a little bit stressful at the same time.
I honestly, it sounds bad, but like watching the Louisville Western game, I was like, you could definitely tell there's nobody in the stands. And then you flip over and you watch the Western Liberty game, and I was like, man, it looks like we got a lot of people there.
Like I'm surprised like how well that went. Like I don't know if they announced the attendance in full like on Saturday's game, but from what it was worth and like what the allotment was, it was just well received. Like I didn't think that we'd have that much of a turnout and all this.
I agree. I didn't think we'd have very many. ESPN's reporting 4,200 people, which that would be around like 20% of the capacity of the Houch. Sorry, I went blank there for a second. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I would expect that we're going to be at about 20% in Diddle. I think that basketball tickets are going to be just as hard to get as they are football tickets.
I agree.
And I think that's what we talked about last week on the show is if you get to go to a game, I mean, count your lucky stars first off if you want to go. If you don't want to go, to some of these, I would, if you could sell your tickets, I'd sell the tickets because you could probably get pretty good for them right now.
Yeah.
Because some of these guys would definitely love to go to a game. Excuse me. But, yeah, it's a very crazy time right now. So I guess I could talk a little pro tops real quick. Jack Doyle, is he still playing well, or what's going on with him?
He's still with the Colts. Like he just signed an extension in the offseason. He did play week 1, but he was sidelined for knee and ankle injuries in week 2, so that's being monitored. So, but the biggest news, like segueing, of course, to pro tops, like I'm just going to do updates on here. Taywan Taylor is still on the practice squad for the Browns. Jack Doyle, of course, is sidelined with knee injuries. He didn't get to play this past Sunday. Oddly enough, Mike White and George Fant are on the same team. They're with the New York Jets. And even though the Jets are abysmal, like I can say they're not one of the best teams in the league, 8-2. But it's just great to see like Mike get in there for like special teams duties, but also George, like he's in a starting role. Like compared to where he was in Seattle, like that last year, he got more playing time than he did in like maybe the past 3 years he's been there, which is great. And it just segued, of course, to this opportunity with the Jets. Like he's a starter. He's a veteran, so it's just amazing just to see the progress in day in and day out. Also, Forrest Lamp, like he's having a really good season. Like he's with the Chargers, he's got the left guard position. Like he was a tackle when he was playing here, and then they just kind of shifted the course because Chargers have always had like the worst injury history known to man. Joel Bunue is a special teams ace for the Bears. Let me go up here. Deion Yoder has been inactive, like off and on. Like it's just an interesting situation. Like 1 week he's active with the Chiefs, next week he's inactive, but they have like a little system going on with tight ends. So it's like it's very interesting to see his progress. And then of course, like Tyler Higbee, one of the big stories in the league right now for fantasy purposes. He had 3 touchdowns on Sunday with the Rams beating the Eagles, and he's carrying like the last month of December into this season because he did get 5 touchdowns off a few receptions, and it's just like he's been getting a lot of love on social media, fantasy football experts. So, and it's just week 2. Like I feel like this is going to carry out as long as he's healthy, of course, and then pretty much like as long as Jared Goff keeps playing the football. It's going to really be a blowout, breakout year for Tyler Higbee.
So we don't usually do a lot of fantasy stuff on the show, but I would definitely not sleep on Tyler Higbee. If you can pick him up in your league, get it.
Yes, and if you have him in your league, God bless you. You are a gem because he is in my league as well. So it's like I've been talking like to a lot of fantasy football like guys just off and on and stuff. Now just kept putting his name on Tyler Higbee. Tyler Higbee. Like you will not regret it. Don't sleep on him.
Yep, buy that stock early if you can. So something else I was going to talk about. Big news last week, I believe. I don't know exactly when it came out. That Pearson's going to leave the team. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? I'll let you do that.
Yes. Pearson is, I want to say, the second wide receiver to leave the team in weeks, which Sloan was the first one to leave. And I think he left before the season even started. This is before like the Louisville.
Yeah.
Like, he put his name in the transfer portal. Also, like it just kind of all these transfers just keep popping up out of nowhere. Like Clayton Bush was one of the first one. He's over at Southern Illinois. Mitchell Harrelson is at Murray now. So, like, Devin, I just got to ask you this question, of course. Like, have you ever, like, okay, in your years at Western, working with the team and stuff, was there such a thing as, like, too many transfers or too many, like, people leaving the team going on during the season?
I honestly don't remember that many transfers, like, during the season. But, of course, even during, like, the 27 games or 26 game skid, depending on what you count, I don't remember that many transfers as far as like the big times. The guys that got to touch the ball the most. And honestly, like I was surprised with Pearson leaving. That was the one that I just went, really? Because like he's been getting a lot of targets from Piggy, and I that was the one I just went, really? Out of all the receivers I thought would transfer, honestly, I figured it'd be like Simon. I figured Josh Simon would be one of those that would have transferred because there was one play in particular. I remember I think Piggy overthrew or underthrew Josh Simon, and he just started yelling. And I was like, this dude is really frustrated. You could just read it all over his face. It wasn't just, hey, I'm trying to get my point across. You can't hear me because of the stadium. He just looked, just completely, completely aggravated at the entire situation. And I was like, okay, all right, buddy, hey, and honestly, I love Josh Simon. I think he's a great player, and I think he can do really good this season. But Ja'Cour Pearson just came out of, just kind of blindsided, I think, me and maybe some of the other fans this year. Were you shocked?
Yes, like that was just shocked. Like, I mean, I was getting off work. Like, I was at my last break of work when I got like the Twitter update, and I was just like, huh? Then like a couple of like WKU fans like that I'm really close with. Like we went to college and stuff together. They still follow the team. Like one's actually a season ticket holder with her husband. She texted me about it, and I was still trying to like piece everything together. I was like, how did he like? Why? Like it
Yeah.
was like, does it have anything to do with like the play calling? Because I know the offense has been, and I'm just gonna be blunt, anemic at times. Like
Yes. Yeah.
coming from the Louisville game to the Liberty game, like that was a little bit of an improvement, but still just same game, different, like same situation, different game. Like it
I
has
agree.
to do with the play calling, honestly, just because like normally, like compared to like going back to last year, of course, and it's with the Ty Story situation coming in too, with Duncan falling over to injury. Like they had to revamp the play calling over and over. Like the quarterback has to get more acclimated with the receivers. And I think it also has something to do with just the abbreviated training camp. Like, not that much time to prepare. So it's like, I mean, Piggy could have got like more practice than what was allowed, but it just shows like on the field now, like with the offense, it just looks lost at times. There's like a good drive that ends in like maybe a field goal or a touchdown or something, and then it just goes flat for like the next 3 to 4 drives. And it's astounding.
I agree. If you want to see how good offense runs, look at Liberty. I don't know what they did, but they were running on all cylinders. What was that kid's name? Sorry, I always go blank on the other team. Malik Willis. Yes, that kid as a dual threat quarterback is dangerous, and I enjoyed watching him play. Trying to be a kind of nonpartisan person, just kind of watching the game. He's good. He's got some good wide receivers. He can keep the DBs back, and he can also force them up and actually throw over them. And he's pretty dangerous. I think he'll be a pretty good quarterback. In the league, I don't know how long his career might be, but I could definitely see him getting there.
Like at his like he was really fun to watch. Like I mean, that's the Hugh Freeze effect, of course. Which Hugh Freeze, of course, like the coach. He's a historic name. He coached at Ole Miss for a while, so a lot of good players came from Ole Miss, like quarterbacks especially. So it's like he carried that over to Liberty, and then also like their offensive coordinator Kent Austin spent some time in the CFL as well, like a very like historic coach there as well. So it's just like both of those offensive minds combining together at Liberty, of all places. It was just astounding. Like that offense, like kind of shocked me. Like it's surprising. Like they're an independent school, so I like they're definitely like in the right direction with their program. So it was. We just didn't have an answer for Malik Willis one bit.
My big takeaway on Saturday was not necessarily as much about how good their offense was as how bad our defense is. And I'm not trying to rag on the defense or anything like that, but there's definite improvement needed in our defense. Now part of that is they were trying to keep the D-line fresh, and I feel like they just shut Malone down. D'Angelo Malone, I feel like they just kind of shut him down. Let me see if I can find how many tackles he had. Team stats, here we go. Not team. Let me go box score. But yeah, I mean, I just feel like he didn't have as much of a defensive night. Like Devin Key led the defense with 14 tackles. And then D'Angelo Malone had 9. And Kincaid had 11. Kincaid played really well, I thought.
He did. He's been having a really stellar couple games. Like it's the second day. Like last year, it was the D line that got the attention. This year, it's going to be the secondary, like between Kincaid, Key, Ruffin, just different players. Like I mean, they were on it. Like that's the big takeaway I got from the defense is just like how, like I mean, even when plays like they got beat and stuff, the secondary was still just like on their A game. Like I think that teams are starting to figure out how to stop Malone, which is very concerning because Malone is a very like dimensional defensive lineman. Like he can, like at his best, he's a hybrid. So it's like once teams figure out how to shut him down, it's like he's not going to dominate. He's not going to get in the pocket and get the sack. So it's like once you shut him down, boom, you got Western's defense right where you want them, and you can just basically do whatever you got to do. Also, the Louisville game was a perfect example of that too.
Yeah. Well, in Malone and D'Angelo's defense, the Louisville game, I thought he did better than he did against Liberty.
He did.
I don't know whether that, I don't know what that, what happened there. He had 4 solo tackles, which, I mean, that's really good. But on the flip side of the coin, the secondary didn't really do very well against Louisville. I don't know if that's, wasn't it Malik Cunningham?
Yeah, it was Malik Cunningham and Tutu Atwell's their number 1 receiver.
What is it? What's up with us playing Maliks? I think if we play a quarterback named Malik, we just need to just forfeit. Just let it go.
Or Michael for the Louisville fans watching, like whatever he wants to be called week by week. Because I saw like some interviews saying like 1 week he goes by Malik, the other one is Michael. Like I think I wrote in like the recap like Michael. I'm just like, dude, make up your mind.
Yeah, I mean,
or next year I'm just gonna call you Cunningham. Like, just be done with it.
Just call him just call him Frank. Just be like, he goes by this 1 week and he goes by this the next week, but we're gonna call him Frank just because he won't choose. But I mean, honestly, Liberty's defense really didn't dominate as much as Western's. And of course that's got a lot more to do with like how much their offense had the ball, but like their leading tackler, Benjamin Alexander, had 7 tackles, 4 solo. And that's with Devin Key having 14 and 6 solo. So, I mean, apples to oranges here as far as the defense goes, but let's see, total time. Liberty had the ball for almost 35 minutes and we had it for 25.
Yeah, those Liberty drives were just
You can't do that though.
Like literally.
You can't do that because they had almost 500 yards offense against us. They had 487 total yards, 133 passing, and 354 rushing. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you that Malik Willis probably had the majority of those rushes. Let's see. He had 21 carries for 168 yards, and he passed for 133. So by himself, he basically had almost 300 yards. So 100. Let's just round up to 170, 133. Yeah, 300 right there. So, and
the highlight tape. That is highlight tape worthy.
And I am so tired of watching this kid's replay.
He was actually he's a transfer from Auburn too. So
yes, and that's
how did y'all let this guy get away? Like this guy would have developed is he like a upperclassman, like a junior or so?
Let me check real quick. He is a junior.
He's not a red shirt, right?
No, at least on ESPN it doesn't say if he's a red shirt. But I will say one positive note is that Western did not have any turnovers.
That is like the most, and I was getting ready to touch up on that too. That's the most astounding fact from this season, like with Tyrell. It's like he hasn't turned the ball over once. Like I know, like he had 3 touchdowns, 18 out of 25 passes completed, 193 yards, 3 touchdowns. It's like he's very accurate. It's like it's kind of like my vice about it, like that kind of gripes me a little bit is like his decision making when he wants to run the ball. It's like whenever he has an open shot, of course he takes off, but it's like those frustrating plays because he did this like 3 different times in the Liberty game where he was dropping back. He had an open lane to like maybe scramble, but it was like also he wanted to pass. Like if you're like have to have like that one-track mind to run the ball, obviously, but it's like if you know you're not going to be comfortable running that play, just throw it. Even if you have to get rid of it, throw it. So it's like apples and oranges, of course, but like his accuracy is really good. I feel like I wouldn't pull the switch on him yet. It's like
No,
give
I
him more
wouldn't
time
either.
to develop.
I
And
agree. I definitely.
yeah,
I wouldn't. I don't think it's time to for him to be benched by any means. Um, because I mean, once the cogs fall into place and everything starts turning over just like it's supposed to, it'll be. I mean, I think he's going to be a really good quarterback. But it's like you said. There were times when you thought, well, he should have passed it or he should have threw it, or he wasn't making up his mind whether he should go ahead and tuck it and run or if he should, go ahead and make the pass. And that's where the experience comes in of him being able to say, okay, this guy, let's say Josh Simon, okay, if Simon does this, then I know he's going to catch it no matter what, you
yes.
know. But if he does this, I know I need to run it because he's not going to be able to catch that. You know what I'm saying? So he's got to get that familiarity with the guys he's playing with, and that'll just come with experience. And honestly, I think not this week, but next week, I think we're going to have hopefully a really good game against MTSU. I see where a couple of our listeners are going to go down to MTSU. Mr. Hilltopper Brett is going to go. So definitely, if you are wanting to go down, one, do what you're supposed to do and be careful with COVID, because MTSU and Murfreesboro is the back battle of Nashville. So definitely be careful there.
Not going away in Nashville anytime soon with how they're acting.
I will say, sorry, Ross has just texted me. I will. My thing is with Nashville and all that. I'm not going to talk about that. But anyway, as far as MTSU is concerned, they're having a horrible year. I will tell you right now. Of course, we had a really big ESPN was really on us to win that game against Liberty, but right now Western has an 89.1% chance to beat MTSU. And currently, MTSU has only had 7 points per game.
Is Stockstill still there as coach?
I would assume so. Yeah, there you are, Ross.
Hey.
Hey, guys.
We're just talking Liberty Western. So looks like MTSU, they lost 42-0 to Army, which Army's pretty good most years. And then they lost 47-14 to Troy.
So, yeah, you think Western start of the season is bad, then you look down what's going on in the borough, and you're like, okay, well, things could be a lot worse.
Yes, definitely. It could be a lot worse. And actually, one of the funny things, I can't. What is that kid's first name? O'Hara for
Asher O'Hara, yeah, he's
Asher
good
O'Hara.
still.
He's thrown 3 interceptions so far. He's got looks like a little bit better stats as far as completions, and he's actually got 63 yards and a touchdown, and I guess that's their only touchdown because they're only averaging 7 points a game. And then Tinsley has a touchdown as well. Has 2 touchdowns for their receiving crew.
Tinsley's on our team, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong one. Pierce, he's got 114 yards. And, of course, Tinsley's got the 2 touchdowns for us. But Ross, I was going to let you talk. You were talking about the Bassey news. Do you want to talk about that real quick?
I saw that he got second team All-American by Lindy's magazine. So, I mean, that's, this year's like huge if, depending on how Western figures out. I think the big variable with this whole year, it's not if they're going to play, it's going to be how they're going to play. I think it's about, getting in one of these good bubbles and getting your resume built up. So, I saw that Louisville is like proposing doing a bubble. Well, if I was Westerner, if UK does a bubble, it behooves you to do everything you can to get into one of these where you can build up your non-conference resume and really impress people, especially in this crazy season that we're going to have. Because I mean, I don't know if you guys have paid any attention to it, but there's they're going to try to just take these 8 or 12, or I saw one where they're trying to do 100 teams in Las Vegas or something, but they're trying to get all these teams together and figure out, okay, how are we going to make this work and isolate these players and everything else. So we'll see what happens.
That's what we were talking about at the beginning of the show. I don't know how they're going to do this. Some of these sports I feel like were made for COVID times, like golf. Like men's golf, they could go out there and play, and it's not really going to affect them all that much.
They just announced cross country today, or one of those sports was back.
Yeah, cross country, on the other hand, a bunch of people sweating and panting, and let's say somebody slipped through with no symptoms. And I mean, depending on how close in the pack they were, I mean, they could get 3 or 4 people, exposed to COVID there. So I don't know, of course. Depending, if you're one of those fast kids that's up in the front, it's a different story. But if you're one of these slow, fat kids like me, you're definitely going to.
I would just say you widen the course, and then it's gonna, as the race goes on, you're gonna space out a little bit. So.
I usually space out watching cross country, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean, let's act like we're cross country experts if we're really going to be honest.
Exactly. So talking Liberty. So what did you watch the game, Ross, and what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I know everybody is mad at Piggy and all that, but really, I was 100 times more pissed off at the defense than I was at the offense. I mean, we think about everybody we had back. You basically had 8 starts, but 8 starters off last year's team back. Plus, you get Eli Brown back from injury, and you get absolutely gashed by a quarterback making his first start of all time. And Malik Willis is pretty good. So, that's what frustrated me. I mean, Piggy not being able to consistently throw or whatever, that's one thing. And I know that probably played a little bit part of it. But anytime the defense was called to make a big stop or do anything, they just got blown off the ball. And that's frustrating because you were expecting them to carry us early in games like that. So
let me stand up for the defense here. If you're looking at stats, okay, Liberty had 487 total yards. 133 of that was passing, and 354 was rushing.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at our defense last year,
they're
way better. Yeah, they're way better against the run than pass.
Mm-hmm. They're exhausted. That's why they're getting blown off the ball. Liberty had 58 rushing attempts, and they got about 6 yards on average, where Western had only 98 yards rushing.
I agree. The offense isn't doing them any favors, but this is a defensive first team, and it was literally from the first drive of the game that they got gashed. It wasn't okay, as the game wore on, it was literally from the beginning. They fell behind 17-3.
Yeah,
and it's one thing. Okay, well, it was 7-7. Midway through the third quarter, then the dam broke. They were getting gashed from the opening drive of the game.
Well, I'm not blaming all of this on the offense by any means. I feel like a lot of this is going to be I think a lot of our issue is just the kind of the sped up, the training camp, and just not having the time to work out the kinks. But at the same time, the offense has got to get everything oiled up. And
I'm fine with that. I agree with that on offense, but on defense, look at the unit from last year. Basically, from the FIU game on, there was one consistent theme, and it was the defense, and they just have not come out ready to play this year. I don't know if they're. I think we communicate with Juwan Jones' dad on through the Tower Rack, and he said, I have no idea what's wrong with these guys. And it's just, they're not making plays, or they look kind of hesitant. I mean, D'Angelo Malone just getting doubled and triple teamed, and he looks like he's giving it all. But the players that you want to make plays, whether it be the safeties or the defensive tackles, like they're just not getting it done right now. And that's like I can live with Piggy, having growing pains and us figuring it out on offense, but not the defense just not being ready. That's the frustrating part.
I agree, and I wonder if part of our defensive woes is with the coaching scheme for last week. They were trying to swap in the D line every few series or whatever. I'm wondering if that kind of affected Western's rhythm as far as the defensive mindset.
I think.
Go ahead.
I think that, and I don't like the excuses period because I just didn't think they were ready to play. I think if you would have caught Liberty like when we were supposed to, like this week of the season, then if they would have had film on them and actually known how to play them. I don't know if their offense was the exact same offense they ran last year. So I think that play, to play the excuse game, like Louisville was up for us and ready to play, and we didn't catch them on surprise, and Piggy's first game, and then this game, we didn't have any idea what to do against what kind of Liberty team was going to be there, because they were literally, last week we were talking, they replaced their starting quarterback, their 1,300-yard receiver, and their 1,200-yard running back, and that offense looked pretty darn good, mainly because Malik Willis was so good.
Well, let me ask you, since we're talking about that, how shocked were you to see Jacor Pearson's transfer?
Oh, very shocked. I mean,
I think we all are.
Well, the number one thing is, this year doesn't count towards a year of your eligibility. So basically, they just said he was no longer with the team. I don't know if he was forced off or he just was fed up. Either way, it's like, okay, he was so fed up or ready to go, or the coaching staff was so displeased with him, one or the other, who knows, but it's like you couldn't stick out a year that doesn't even affect your eligibility. It's not, yeah.
Right. I was wondering that is like he's a redshirt senior, so I mean he doesn't have like any hardship injury clauses. Like
no, they said that any player that plays during this season gets another year back next year. Doesn't matter if you play the whole year, 3 games or 4 games or whatever. It does not count a year towards your eligibility.
I'm wondering on the subject. Let me ask both of y'all this. Due to the obviously, like you still gain a year of eligibility, and of course, like the transfer portal, do you foresee a lot more transfers coming in like the next few weeks?
I think that all depends on how they play.
Yeah, I think it's an individual preference as far as the transfer, but I don't know.
I would say maybe so. You look at the 2 guys that have left the team, Sloan and Pearson, seniors. They're like, okay, well, I am not going to. The thinking is I didn't get the exposure I wanted to, or I couldn't get showcase my skills so I could play the next level. I don't know if either of those players is good enough to, but I'm sure most players, are trying to showcase that. I mean, Pearson was an 800-yard receiver last year.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, like, early it's like Piggy couldn't get me the ball. Like, I don't know if this offense is going to showcase my skills. Maybe I go bounce somewhere else. But it's just a terrible look. And I think Tinsley and Burt do look impressive, but just the fact that you're just dependent on no proven commodities is just kind of frustrating.
I thought Pearson got a lot of targets during the Louisville game. So I don't know. That's my thought though. Is I'm wondering maybe he thought he should have a lot more. He had 5 receptions for 67 yards.
Yeah, I mean that's not bad. So maybe it wasn't that. Maybe there's some kind of disagreement, or we don't know. There wasn't a lot of clarity there.
Yeah, I don't know. We'd have to get some inside sources to give us some news on that. Let me see if I can find out who our top kind of wide receivers were.
Well, Bird had that great catch, to go. Here's a good question. Do you guys, with the defense getting gashed, should they have tried to kick the onside kick instead of kicking it to Liberty?
When they scored, like if I was a coach, I would have tried for the onside kick. Just not like out of the sheer knowledge, like to do so if you're really trying to come back. It's just like seems plausible. Like I wouldn't kick the ball off or at least squib it.
I think the thought process is if you kick it deep, then maybe you'll have better field position if the defense can stop them. But it's kind of that same thought process when Sanford did it. I probably would have went for the onside. I want the ball back, but
Yeah, the thing is the defense just I think you could count on made like 2 stops all day. It's just like they didn't have any momentum. It's almost you kick the onside kick and then you give yourself a chance to steal one.
And of course, the flip side of the coin, though, if you kick the onside kick, they get the ball back. They've got better field position too.
True.
So
Yes.
it's kind of a double-edged sword, so to speak, because do I kick it deep and kind of risk losing clock time and us getting a chance to score or not? But looking at the Louisville Western game, we had 3 receivers. Jacor Pearson led the receivers with 67 yards. Mitchell Tinsley had 38, and Craig Burt had 24.
Yeah.
So
and then Simon finally got a catch against Liberty. I think Dalvin Smith, the Glasgow kid, he looked pretty good at athletic. He got that first touchdown from Piggy. So maybe it's like you probably firsthand. I mean, were you there just for Elson, or did you make it some of the Taggart years?
I was there from Elson through probably right before Willie's last year. So I was there through 2011.
So you saw probably as Willie's second year, he's going to lean more on his guys as it goes on. So maybe that explains what's happening with Pearson and Sloan.
Well, Pearson got 4 receptions and 29 yards on Saturday against Liberty.
Yeah. It's a head scratcher. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I don't either. And even Xavier Lane which I don't understand how this works. He got 2 receptions for 5 yards. So they must have been
screen passes.
Yeah, screens or bubbles, yeah. Okay. So we had no Okay, I'm confused. We had no turnovers.
I gotta go to another Zoom call. So
yeah. Hey, have a good
Alex,
one.
good talking to you, buddy.
Hey, good talking to you too, Ross. Good talking to you too, Devin. Great to be back.
Take care, buddy. We'll see you back.
All right, you too. I'll see y'all.
So I guess we didn't lose. We never had a turnover, but they had two fumbles and we had a fumble with Tyrell. So I guess
it's just. I mean, it's the thing is, to me, it was a combination of, Piggy wasn't consistent with the ball. They did have a couple drives. Like, that's why I'm not as pissed off about the offense, because they've shown little flashes here and there that, okay, like they're figuring it out. But you went into the season, like if we talked before the season, it's like, okay, well, the defense is going to be able to make plays. They're going to make stops. And like last year, like, okay, they'd give up a drive or two and then make adjustments and be good the rest of the game when it was comparable level talent. This year, it just looks like deer in the headlights, and then like getting blown off the ball and just looking unprepared.
I agree. I don't know, as far as, I think Coach White's got a lot to work on as far as getting everything back in gear and kind of getting us back to a new normal.
I see it was, and I've watched a little bit of their highlight videos or whatever where they've been posting them on the WKU Twitter account, but like, why, maybe it was like a Navy situation where they weren't doing contact tackling early, and that's something. Or maybe they are leaning on last year's thinking it would be good, but they lost Darden, they lost Jalen George, they lost is it Clay Davis Clay Davis, and maybe those guys who we thought were just role players were that important. I don't really know. It's kind of head scratching.
I agree. I think in this coming week, and obviously part of next week, they're going to be doing a lot of soul searching coming into the middle game.
Well, the middle game is the perfect situation to get right.
Yes, completely agree with that, because, once you get middle, then sorry, let me get back. Once you got middle, then we go to Marshall, which
Marshall at home, actually.
Yeah.
But here's the good thing. Remember last year, they started off 1-2, and it wasn't an impressive 1-2 either. And then they come back. Their balls are on the wall against who was that against? UAB.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And then they beat UAB, and then okay, well now they got to win against somebody who shouldn't. So you take care of middle on the road. You get a little confidence. And if they can steal one from Marshall, then it's like, okay, well, reset. Conference title still on the line. We've got our offense figured out. They could build something. So this bye week is coming at the perfect time if they actually want to get this ship righted.
I agree. Do you think this could be a what was that 2014 or 15 Marshall Cinderella destruction? I guess I don't know how to put that.
No, because I don't think A, that was like the last game of the season, and B, I watched App State against Charlotte, and then I watched App State against Marshall. I don't think that this is the App State team of the last couple of years.
Okay.
So why Marshall's in the top 25 and they look good at home, they're going to be going on the road with a freshman quarterback, and it's a rivalry game, and I think Marshall's got some good players. That running back and that running back Knox and that linebacker Beckett are great, but I don't think it's just not to where it was a couple of years ago. So I think it would be it's one of those like, oh, look great on paper if and when we win the game's up, but at the end of the season they could be like the rest of Conference USA and have 2 to 4 losses. So
my question is. We'll go into this unless you have something else. Have you ever heard of a directional school breaking the Power 5 ceiling? And when I say Power 5 ceiling, I mean breaking into the Power 5 conferences.
Not
literally
USC. Just kidding.
I was gonna say Southern Cal. Yeah, that might actually be the only one.
But I mean, they were original Pac 8 or whatever member. I mean, they've been big deal. The thing is, I think your question probably is more as a directional school. Can you expect sustained success? Is that more of a realistic question?
Yes. Yeah, sure. We'll go with that question.
Because breaking into the Power 5. I mean, look at UCF. UCF would be another good directional school that you could do that. Yeah. I think it is attainable, but the problem with a school like Western is always going to be budget and keeping your coach, which I guess kind of feed into each other. Yes. And really, Kentucky's not a giant talent producing state. While you can get good players, it's not like Florida or South Carolina or North Carolina or something like that, where you can kind of just live off local guys. You've got to kind of get lucky and, think about all the momentum we had after Braum, and then we made the wrong hire and it took us 3 steps back. So,
and I think you're going to have that though between coaches. You know what I'm saying?
Well, exactly. You've got it. Your margin for error is just so low.
Yeah, because you'll have, and I mean the mid majors like us are going to have to take those risks with the Sanfords and the Brahms, because honestly,
the Heltons
and the Heltons, because I mean honestly, we're second year into Helton, so we could be having the same issue, really.
That's the frustrating part about this start of the season, because it felt like you were building towards this year, and whether it was COVID or just bad luck or just not having the roster perfect, it's just like this was the year you were building towards, and then you kind of have a reset year next year. So
I think everybody had a lot of going into the offseason, everybody had a lot of expectations going for this year, and I mean, I think a lot of expectations are still warranted, but I think we're going to, kind of pump the brakes for a little bit and just give us let everybody just build back up. New quarterback, he's trying to get used to the system. Just give Piggy a little time. I think he'll be good. I think he's going to be
he'll either be good or we will move on. If they lose the middle, they will move on because it doesn't make any sense, So,
Oh, definitely.
well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. When you're in a school like Western, we've only been D1 for what, 12, 13 years.
Yeah.
FBS. I mean,
Yeah.
we're still young in that regard. I know we were a pretty good, one AA power or whatever, but you don't have that, even like compared to like a Marshall where they've got 30 years at that high level. We don't have the history, the track record. So, you got to just keep having these good seasons, keep having these bowl years, build that base of support. Like our fans are still, you know, still like, okay, well, they freak out after a loss. They think, okay, well, I'll move on to basketball if we're not ready. Like at schools like Marshall and the like, or East Carolina or something like that, there's not, that same thing. You still have to build up the football school mentality. So every year, you win, you get that following a little bit more, that expectations a little bit more. And that's why you got to just keep having good year after good year after good year after great year and just keep building on it. So
I think the biggest problem with Western, though, is not necessarily, I mean, we do have that issue that you're talking about, but when let's say like last year, let's just talk last year, Western goes into the game, they lose one or two, and then it's like, well, write them off. They're done. Like this year.
Exactly.
And then they'll flip the channel over to Kentucky or Louisville or Tennessee or whoever, whichever school that they may consider their other, they're another fan of.
Yeah, it's a very fickle fan base. That's like you've got to get me early, or else you lose me, or it takes me a while to get me back.
Yes, and I think that's a crippling thing for Western because, how many other schools do you go to and you see, let's say you go to UK's campus. Do you ever see anybody wearing a Western hoodie? No. You're going to see UK stuff. I mean, you may see Louisville stuff, but it's more sparse to have a Louisville fan at UK than it is the other way around. At Western, you'll most likely see a Louisville hoodie or a UK hoodie or something.
Yeah,
like
it's exactly. I mean, it's just the directional school, and you've got to win converts every time. I mean, I think we're both examples of that, where it's like you've got to break that mindset with your own, like the people that should naturally be like your number one fans, that you can care about us as much. You can do that, and that bleeds over to attendance, to donations, to how much you pay your coaches, how much your perception of your program. It just builds up. Like you can beat a school like Arkansas, and then even when you win games like that, you kind of get explained away.
Exactly. And I think Western has a little work to do as a program, and I think you as a program you have to absorb all the media attention that you can get.
And that's where you starting off. I mean, there's no shame in losing to Louisville, but then losing to Liberty after that, that's where you let a loss turn into a losing streak, and they just did not look ready on Saturday.
I agree. I honestly wonder if they just thought that they were going to, come in and Liberty was just going to lay down and take whatever they could get. You know what I'm saying?
And Hugh Freeze is too good of a coach to do that too.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Hugh Freeze, but it's.
But his track record speaks for itself. I mean, the guy beat out
coach. Yes, he
beat Alabama twice.
Yes, I'm not saying his coaching. I'm just saying personally, I just don't know about him. But anyway,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and I think that's what Western's going to struggle with is definitely
consistency.
And as a directional school, you're going to have to work harder on standing out.
Well, I think the difference though compared. Whoa, what's that?
What's what?
Oh, I got Louisville's under curfew from 9 p.m. till.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it just buzzed in my ear while I was talking to you on the phone. Did that come through the thing?
No, I didn't even hear it. That's why I was so confused. I was like, I'm literally just sitting here. I don't know what to do.
It just said it was an Amber word. I was like, holy crap, what's going on? No, but my last point on this is compared to when we were in school, Devin, and the between me and from 06 to 10, you were there till 11. I think the school spirit, the fan base is way better than it was then.
I agree, and I think the Brom era helped that, honestly.
I think the Brom era helped that a lot. I think that showed people that you can have a high ceiling and you can care about it. Beating UK twice, which was, Petrino and Taggart.
Yes.
There was years, and then last year is even a good thing. It's just like you said, the margin for error when it comes to fan attention can wane whenever this doesn't start off like we want. So they need to get back on track this next week against Middle, and that a win against the hapless Middle team will at least calm some fears. Then you got a real opportunity against a good Marshall team. So
and I think like you were saying, like just reiterating just a little bit. I think the fans that we won during the Brom era, we may have lost some during the Sanford era. And
it's not that you lost them. It's just they diverted their attention. I think it's really okay. You gained some hardcore converts, but your casuals will always be casual unless you can do that for a really long period. So
completely agree with that. Yes. So next week we will discuss the MTSU middle game a little bit more in depth. Maybe talk some other MTSU Western stuff since it is such a big rivalry week. And
I'm gonna have a good piece with 100 Miles of Hate. Maybe we could reach out to see if he wants to come on the podcast or something.
Sounds great. I was telling Alex right before the show started. He was having some issues getting on because you have to use a headset now apparently to come on the show, which was not a setting I set up by any means. But Alex was like, "Man, things have changed on Podbean, blah blah blah," and I was like, "Yeah." Before I could only have 4 guests on the show that I actually email and send them a link to. Now I can have 8.
Oh,
so
nice.
yeah, we can have several more people. Got a lot more sounds to play, which I will do a couple. But anyway, I can't help myself.
So yeah, I'm gonna invite next week when I'm sending in the Q&A. I'm gonna invite the guys that do 100 Miles of Hate onto the podcast.
Sounds great. So, that'll be very enjoyable. I can't wait to hear them. Can't wait to get them on. We will, like I said, we'll talk more about the MTSU game. I guess it's on ESPN or something. We'll talk about that.
ESPN3, I think. So I mean, you'll be able to watch it, and I just hope we get a good week. I mean, let's put some stuff in perspective. FAU has had 3 straight games canceled not because of them, but because I think the first one was because of them, but because either them or their opponent got COVID. So,
oh my gosh.
So we need to just say, okay, well, at least we're playing games. At least we can still enjoy it. Unlike, Notre Dame just had games canceled. Like, I think North Texas, which is in Conference USA, just got games canceled. You've got it's the season's there could be starts and stops. And luckily, we got this bye week. We'll probably play, middle play San Antonio this week. So we can talk a little bit more data from them. They could be really, that's a really game. They could be about to fire Rick Stock still. So we can get into that. I think that'd be a good thing to get into next week too.
I definitely, I mean, I kind of wonder how much more they're going to take down there at middle, but definitely check us here, but check us back up, blah, blah, blah. Come back next week. We'll talk more about Western versus middle. Follow the towel rack. Like Ross said, he's going to have some articles coming out with getting ready for the big rivalry game with middle. Follow Redout on Facebook and Twitter. I kind of neglected, so we'll try and get some more stuff going out that way. Definitely share the towel rack stuff on our Redout Facebook and Twitter. But as always, guys, go Tops.
Go Tops.